On today's Locked On Jayhawks, Noah Shelby, the three-point sharpshooter for KU, is officially transferring out of the program. What does it mean for KU and Bill Self as there's still more work to be done with the offseason roster?
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Derek Johnson here. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for making it your first listen every day. And thank you to everydayers catching each and every episode of the show. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcasts, including on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. And on today's edition of LOJ, we're talking Noah Shelby transferring away from the program from Kansas, kind of a late roster deletion, I guess, as opposed to addition for KU here. What does it mean for the team? Are they going to fill the roster spot? Is this the roster they're going to go into with 12 scholarship guys? What does it look like right now? If that is the case, we'll get into all that on today's episode of the show, plus a little bit on some of the latest news. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Before we get into any of that, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year with Monarch Money. Okay, we're going to get into the Shelby stuff before we get into the latest news. I've been out of town. I'm back into things now, and unfortunately we didn't have this right when it happened, but, we'll talk about it now. So Noah Shelby has entered the transfer portal. He was a former walk-on guard who came to Kansas as a transfer last offseason, and now he is leaving Kansas. And so Shelby came into the collegiate ranks as like a high-end three-star, like borderline top 100 recruit in the country. He goes to Vanderbilt his first year, playing for an SEC school as a scholarship player. He plays 14 games, 9 minutes per game, 3.7 points per game on 31% from three, on over 3 attempts per game as a freshman. So, in the games he plays, he's, getting decent spot minutes here and there. And then his second season, he transfers away to Rice, where you would think, okay, transferring down, maybe he's in line for a lot more playing time. Ended up only playing 30 games, 1 start, 12 minutes per game, 33% from three, 4 points per game essentially for Rice. Not a particularly great team. So then he transfers to Kansas, and somebody from McKinney, Texas originally, I believe, good friends with Rylan Griffin, and he comes on board with Rylan Griffin, who transfers into the program, and Shelby comes in as a walk-on, looking to earn his way, earn his scholarship, and Kansas, full up on scholarships a season ago. Well, the talk this offseason was that he was going to earn his scholarship, and I think there was like social media posts from his dad and him on social media. There's a video of him hitting some fun threes during some practice film that you saw. And the idea was he was going to be, on scholarship this year. Now, I don't know if that's something that ended up not coming through. I don't know if that's something where with rev share coming into play, was the money not where it needed to be? I don't know if that was going to happen or still wasn't. Regardless, he ends up transferring away now and leaves the program kind of later in the day. Classic college sports on this one, that there was that announcement earlier this offseason that I'm coming back, and then it ends up not happening. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many kids we've seen from high school ranks be like, oh, I'm 100% committed. And then it's decommitted a month later. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I do wonder if the addition of Cole Rosario, did that sort of push him out in a little bit of ways? I guess you could make the argument in terms of okay, is Cole Rosario going to be directly in competition with Noah Shelby? Or is Noah Shelby, was he going to be in direct competition with more of Jamari McDowell, for instance, right? Is there another tier break there possibly? Or does adding a player like Cole Rosario, does that just add more, uncertainty or another bit of competition to where you could be in terms of all that? And so you can understand why that would kind of be the case. But yeah, I do think I look at that, the Cole Rosario one doesn't seem to be, Cole Rosario just arrived on campus a few days ago, and then all of a sudden he's transferring a little bit after that. You can probably, I guess, read between the tea leaves or connect the dots a little bit on that one. I think the worst part of this for Kansas is it's one less decent three-point shooter on the team. Shelby, you're talking 32.5% from three in his career. So you would look at that and go, what do you mean he's this great three-point shooter? I don't know that, I think when you look at a guy who was basically a near top 100 recruit because of his shooting, And yes, you're talking 32.5% in his first 2 years, but now he has a year off of improvement. We know players get better shooting the ball as they go on. The idea of him was always shooting potential. I think it would have been fair to assume that this year he's probably closer to, I don't know, maybe a 35 type of 35, 36% three-point shooter type of player, right? And for a Kansas team that doesn't have a lot of those for sure options on the team, even if Noah Shelby was not somebody that you were viewing, that I was viewing as being part of the consistent rotation, it certainly didn't hurt to have that guy available off the end of the bench, whether it was just to help you in practice with scout team is playing the opposing shooter on the other team, or in that given situation where you need to bring on a three-point shooter, maybe you're looking to steal a bucket late in the half, right? You have 25 seconds on the clock. Okay. Dead ball. You get an opportunity to make a substitution. You have the ball to take the final shot at the end of the first half. And it's like, hey, we could use a three-point shot. Let's throw Noah Shelby in there, right? In a situation like that, or like you need a three-point lineup at some point in the game. He represented one of the best three-point shooters on the team. Peterson could end up being the best or one of the best three-point shooters on the team. It's a bit of an unknown when it's a freshman, right? Marco Jackson might be much improved there. He also shot in the mid 20% as a freshman. So like, that's not a certainty at all, right? Cole Rosario, I think he'll be a pretty good three-point shooter, but what we've seen from him is streaky, and he's also a freshman. So like, you go down the list, obviously Jaden Dawson is the one that feels the most proven from three-point range. You don't know how many of those proven guys you kind of have there. Now, you can make the argument against it though and be like, well, if he wasn't going to be part of the rotation, if he was going to be your 10th, 11th, 12th man, and he wasn't going to be getting consistent minutes anyway, you have to be on the floor. You have to be playing minutes to be able to even get a shot off. To be even able to get a three-point shot off. So does it really matter that much? You kind of take that look both ways, where it's like, it'd be nice to have it in case of emergency, but is that in case of emergency going to happen? I don't know. And that's kind of the big question here. Like, was he even going to be part of the rotation? I think that's probably a little bit unlikely. Was he going to be in a situation, though, to possibly get spot minutes? I wouldn't have been expecting. I mean, I did my minutes projection earlier this week. Thank you to Everydayers who already caught it, and I didn't have him on there. But like, was there a chance that his three-point shooting was just that much better than Jamari McDowell's, for instance? And you were talking about him, being your basically 9th or 10th man, where it was spot minutes occasionally. Like, yeah, I think that was in the world of possibilities, even if it wasn't something that I was expecting. And I guess if you look at it, like him transferring away, probably tells you that was less likely in all likelihood. But now this overall puts Kansas at 12 scholarship players, right? So you're back down to 12. You just went up to 13 after you added Rosario and Mbiya. You have the potential to go up to 14. You're at 12. And I guess, who knows what's going to happen with like the Jaden Nickens thing. So I guess theoretically you could be at 13, but I don't think the expectation is going to be there regardless. Yeah, you look at the 12 scholarship players with the 2 open spots. They've basically got 6 guards: Darren Peterson, Melvin Council Jr., Marco Jackson, Jaden Dawson, Jamari McDowell, and Cole Rosario. You want to call Rosario or McDowell like guard wing type, same with Dawson, like that's fine. But that's 6 guards, right? You have 3 wings, I guess. Trey White, Corbin Allen, more of a developmental guy, but I would view him as a wing. And then Smeeze Calderon. And then you basically have 3 bigs: Floyd Padunga, Bryson Tiller, and Paul Mbiya. So that's I don't want to say the good part about this, because it's never a good thing when you lose a transfer, especially later into the offseason, so to speak. But like, I guess guard is a position where they have a lot of numbers. They have a lot of bodies already, right? Again, having 6 of them, how many of those guys are going to play, right? If we think Peterson, Council, Jackson, Dawson, I think they're going to be in the rotation. That's 4 guys. There's no guarantee McDowell or Rosario are going to be in the rotation. I think Rosario could be somebody in the rotation. I think he will be somebody in the rotation. And whether it's spot minutes or consistently in the rotation, I think he'll be there. But like, point being, I guess it's better to lose a guard than it is to lose another wing or a big, because you're a little lighter on those positions than you are with the guard. So that is kind of the good news here for Kansas, that they're okay. They can cover up at that position a little bit better. So where does Kansas go from here? Do they even fill the spot to begin with? Does it impact anyone else on the team? And is it in any way good news about the current crop of guys and how they're performing, in that it was going to maybe lead Shelby to feel like he wasn't going to get playing time because maybe those other players are just playing so well? Let's discuss all those things next. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Do you ever wish you had all your accounts and spending in one place? Well, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year with Monarch Money. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. Don't forget you can make Locked On College Football or Locked On College Basketball your second listen every day. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. You can listen anywhere you get your podcast here. You can find us on YouTube. Hit that subscriber button. Doesn't affect you much, but let's get that thing to 4K for the start of football season. Okay, so is Kansas going to even fill his spot? I did an episode the other day, and obviously this was planned beforehand. Like I said, I was out of town. I was on vacation. Could Kansas even add another person at this point in time? Should they still go for Ege Demir? And thank you again if you already caught that one. Well, maybe that gets a little bit amplified. Maybe that gets a little bit ramped up after Noah Shelby leaves the program for Kansas. The big question for me is, like, how much money was Noah Shelby set to make, right? Was he set to make any rev share money? Was he set to make any NIL money? And it's hard to know because, again, you're talking about somebody who, like, was a walk-on, turned scholarship player. But again, it's kind of a question, was he actually going to be turned scholarship player, or is this part of him leaving too? And then you get to a situation where it's like, okay, even if that player is making, money, even if he is on scholarship, even if he is getting a little bit of NIL or rev share, it's not going to be like $2 million, right? It's not going to be earth-shattering, earth-changing money that is all of a sudden going to free up a huge amount for Kansas to go out and spend elsewhere, to use elsewhere, right? Clearly, Kansas was limited to some extent to add one more before this happened. But what if that is the difference, right? Like, again, this is like a complete shot in the dark, complete guess. I have no idea what these guys are making on the lower end. I think it's almost easier sometimes to guess what the higher end players are making because we sometimes get public figures on like an AJ DeBanza, and then we can at least like cross compare. Okay, well, this is what this guy should make if he's making that, right? Or sometimes you hear this or that. Let's just say, like, hypothetically, this is me just tossing completely random numbers. I have no idea what they had or have, I guess, potentially left over before Shelby to even make another edition. Maybe it's zero, right? Let's just say it was something like 400,000, right? Just to throw a random number out there. Let's say Shelby's getting 100,000, 200,000. I don't know. That would put you at 500, 600,000 for one more spot. Is that extra little bit enough to all of a sudden get an Ege Demir? Is that all of a sudden a little bit more to get a Krem Konan or get somebody else that's in the portal? Probably not, but it can't hurt. And the later we go in the portal game, if you're getting some of these players who are like, yeah, you know what, I'm interested in coming to college if I'm international, or I'm a college player and I'm still in the transfer portal, nobody's picked me up. Okay, I got to lower my price tag. Or you're just a college player that's waiting on, am I going to be eligible by the NCAA? But now these other schools, because I've had to wait so long, are having to pass me by and pick somebody else. And now my options are down. Now my bidding is down, right? Maybe that is the difference in being able to land a player at the end of the day. So I think I'm kind of in a similar spot where it's like, I still don't know that I expect them to add another player, but does this make it a little bit more likely that it could happen? I think you would have to say to some extent, yes. Is it 5% more likely? Is it 30% more likely? That's kind of the big question. Probably closer to like the 5 to 10% more likely that it would happen. But that is interesting. And then the other question to that would kind of come into like, okay, if they do try to add another player at this point in time, what do they go for? Because after losing Noah Shelby, do you view it as, hey, we need another three-point shooter? If you lose Noah Shelby, do you view it as, hey, we need another guard? We need another shooting guard because we want to fill what we lost there. And if that's the case, I don't know. Maybe at that point it is, looking kind of what you can find in the transfer portal. The flip side to that is going back to the Jaden Nickens stuff. Like, could he be back in play? Could this open the opportunity for that to happen as more of a down the line on the roster kind of guard player that you could have on the team? But I love me some Ege Demir. And if this does increase the potential of that happening, as I detailed earlier, there's still 6 guards on this roster. And if you want to count Corbin Allen to that, it'd be 7. If you want to count the wings to that, it would be 9. You only have 3 big men. Go out and out of the big man with this, right? You're more dire, you're more desperate for that position than you are adding another guard. Now, if they decide not to fill it, if they decide, okay, we're cool with the 12 scholarship players, right? We're cool with what our current roster has. We feel good about our starters. We feel good about our rotation. We feel good about our fringe rotation, our spot minute type of guys. And this isn't going to have a big enough effect on that. What impact does this have? Well, it's probably just more of a practice impact at that point in time. It's probably more of just a conversation about, having a good 3-point shooter in practice. How does that affect the scouting report or make it easier or harder for you to, win games moving forward? And, I think the immediate follow-up question to this is like, okay, does Noah Shelby leaving, is that indicative at all from him, from his camp, from, his party, that he or his party, whatever, feels that the other KU guards that are in competition with him for the playing time that he was hoping for, that he was looking for, that he was trying to compete for, that those guys are kind of taking it and running with it, right? Is this a good sign that, because I don't think it would necessarily be a sign that like, oh, is Darren Peterson doing well? Okay, well, I don't think, if Darren Peterson is passing all tests and is A+ of the guy we think he's going to be and is the 100th percentile outcome of that, I don't think that's having a big impact on Noah Shelby deciding to stay or go. It's more so the guys that are in competition for probably the end of that rotation with him. So that would be looking at guys like Jamari McDowell. Like if Jamari McDowell is balling out in practice, that probably has an impact on Noah Shelby and where he sits in the depth chart. If Elmarco Jackson and Melvin Council and Jaden Dawson are all looking good, okay, that's a lot of guard minutes along with Darren Peterson that are going to get eaten up, where it's like, okay, where does Shelby kind of factor in? What about Cole Rosario? Does he look good already in the early returns in the early days that he's been at Kansas? Because again, if Cole Rosario is looking really good and you have those 4 guards you feel good about that are going to be in the rotation, kind of bar none, with Peterson, Jackson, Council, and Dawson, and now you add a 5th with Rosario who's looking good, again, you're kind of looking on the outs if you're Noah Shelby. So there is a chance that, again, I hate to say this from a standpoint of like, I don't want it to be twisted as like, oh, good riddance. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. But there is a world in which you could look at this and say, this is, in a weird way, good news for Kansas. Not that they're losing the player. As I said earlier, you never want to lose a player. You never want to lose another possible 3-point shooter off the bench. And whether that's something that helps you in practice or just on the end of the roster and in a specific situation here or there, it's more so the idea of, if the reason he is leaving is because some of these other options are really emerging or really playing well or really living up to the hype or impressing the staff, and he feels like it's going to be hard to get playing time against the way that those other guys are looking, that is a good thing for Kansas and what the rest of the roster could possibly be for KU. All right, we're going to finish up here some of the latest news around KU. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for joining us on this episode of LOJ. Derek Johnson here. Again, you can check out Locked On College Football, all the media days going on, or Locked On College Basketball for your second listen every day. And we're going to have a bonus episode coming at you on Friday talking about the KU Football Media Day and kind of going over some of the big, I guess, quotes and things that were said in regards to KU, kind of rehashing, if you missed any of that, what some of the big things that were said about the Jayhawks over at Media Day were. All right, so some of the latest news around KU. Paul Mbiya, seems like he's arriving, and they have officially put him on the roster. He's going to be wearing number 34. He is listed on the KU roster, 6'11", 260 pounds. Now, I like to joke around a lot that a lot of times these college rosters, this isn't just like a KU specific thing. This is everybody across the country likes to, sometimes, I don't know, exaggerate on how like tall or big, or in some cases like the opposite of big. It's like they want to get the player toned down on their weight or something like that. I don't think Kansas does it a ton, but like I think majority of colleges do. If it's like I'm sure it's like, oh, if you measured, and I don't even know, like, are you actually making the measure, or like how does this work? Whatever. But like if you're 6'11" and a quarter, most colleges are just gonna be like, yeah, we'll just round up. Give you 7 feet tall. It just looks good, right? Looks cool. So sometimes you don't know this. Now, the thing about Mbiya is he does have like public measurements, right? And so this stuff is very real. I was most interested with Mbiya because we already knew some of the public measurements on his height. We already knew some of the public measurements on his incredible wingspan, right? What we didn't really know was the weight. You look at some sites and it says like 220. And I don't think I ever believed some of those sites. Like that was probably an early youth. Like maybe when he was like 17 or something. I don't know. You saw the ones that were heavier. You saw some like in between. I think some common ones had like 245. The fact that 260, I love that, right? You're talking about a guy now who has all the strength you could want with all the wingspan you could want. And if there's a matchup where Flory is, as athletic and springy and incredible as Flory Badunga is, if he's playing a player that I don't know why this name pops in my head when I think of this archetype of center, but like Josh Smith, I don't know if you remember him. He was like at UCLA, then Georgetown. I think Kansas played him when he was at Georgetown. Like big dude of a center. And Flory is maybe struggling to keep him from backing him down in the post. A situation like that. Okay, it's nice to know you have Mbiya that you can bring off the bench and be like, yeah, you ain't going through this dude. Oh, and he has a 7 foot, whatever it is, 7'8", whichever measurement that you want to talk about for him, wingspan that you have to go over to, in addition to not being able to go through him. And that combination of the weight, the strength that probably comes with that weight, the wingspan, that's going to make him a terrifying defender for opposing offenses attacking the paint against Mbiya in college basketball. The other bit of news, Zeke Mayo is going to be joining JHX TBT, the basketball tournament team. That's really cool. I mentioned on a recent episode, like, I wondered if, because they were a little lacking in the guard commitments. They had some, fun, I think, forward and big men commits. But we saw Frank Mason go to Syracuse, in which I've heard a number that he's getting $20,000 to go over there. And so you're like, okay, who are going to be the guards? And I kind of wondered if a guy like Zeke Mayo would make sense because, he's in summer league right now. He's a guy if he gets on an NBA roster and balls out in summer league, that's awesome. And I hope that does happen. But if it doesn't happen, great opportunity for him to kickstart his pro career and be like a really good 3-point shooter in this event and give KU some steady guard play that they kind of need in an event like this. So I thought that was cool that would kind of be the case. The last thing I want to mention here is, once again, wanted to reiterate trivia going on over at Johnny's Tavern in West Lawrence coming up on July 27th. Is a Sunday at 6 p.m. Doors going to open at 5 o'clock. We still have some openings for some teams. You can have a team up to 6 people if you want to come play KU basketball trivia. It's all KU basketball trivia. It's in the form of a SmackDown. So like we're going to go through different categories. You're going to answer questions. You get like one SmackDown per half where basically if you don't know the answer, you can put it on a different opponent. And if they get it wrong, you get extra points. There's a couple other rules that we'll go over in person if you don't know how to do it. But like point being, it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you are interested, check out my social media or on Johnny's and reach out because it is going to be a lot of fun that we're doing that. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. Let's get that thing up to 4K. All right, see you next time with another edition of Locked On Jayhawks.